What is going on, everybody? Probably more excited to bring you this video than any video in a few months, probably since I debuted my deep dive series back in May. But we've got my full 2019-2020 NFL predictions show here. Super pumped for it. We got standings, playoffs, Super Bowl, and award picks as well. Gonna try to whip through it pretty fast. If you want more coverage on your team, do check out my deep dive series where we spend about 30 minutes on every team. Also, make sure you like the video if you enjoy. Please do not dislike the video just because I didn't pick your team. Also, use promo code ThatFranchiseGuy on SeatGeek. If you want to support the channel, you'll save $20 there. You'll get the best prices there anyway, so definitely go check that out. Also, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because I've got my power rankings coming out tomorrow, just as they will every Monday, and my weekly picks, my week 1 picks on Tuesday, before I head out to Chicago for the NFL opener. So here we go. Gonna go as fast as I can here. NFC North, a surprise team at the bottom here. Now, I don't think this is the worst team in the division, but the Minnesota Vikings here at 7-9, a particularly difficult schedule paired with the fact with something I've said in the past, and I'll say it again. Bad offensive lines do not travel. You pair that with a tough schedule and a quarterback that does not deal with pressure very well in terms of sensing pressure, extending plays, and getting out of the pocket in Kirk Cousins. I just don't really see it in the cards for the Vikings. That said, I do think they have a better chance at winning this division than my next team here, if that makes any sense. They have a higher upside, the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions have really set up a pretty high floor here. They're going to play pretty sound defense, and they want to run the ball, take care of the football. Like, it's just a very conservative approach that they're going here with Detroit. I think it's about a 500 team, but I just don't see a whole lot of explosiveness here and capability to win this division that is surrounded with a bunch of really good football teams. Then I've got the Bears at second place. Now, I do expect a little bit of regression here. You lost 2 studs in the secondary, Adrian Amos and Bryce Callahan. I think they did a good job replacing those guys, but you should expect a bit of a drop-off. You also lose your defensive coordinator. Also, with many teams trying to repeat as the number 1 defense from year to year, often those number 1 defenses had pretty remarkable health the year before, just as the Bears did last year. So I do think that the defense will be great again, but perhaps not quite as dominant as it was last year, which was like all decade, you know? I think it's going to be a very good defense, a top 3 defense, but they are, I think, going to have to lean on Trubisky a little more, which is going to hurt them. And ultimately, I do have the Packers here winning the division at 11-5. It's going to be a tight race, and I actually had the Bears beating the Packers here on Thursday. But with Green Bay, you add Adrian Amos, taking him from Chicago. Green Bay has just suffered giving up big plays. You look at just the playoff scores for Green Bay, like giving up 40-plus points consistently. Getting Adrian Amos specifically is a piece that is going to help limit those big plays. He's one of the securest safeties by nature, like just limiting big plays. And then you add an aggressive guy that I actually compared to Eddie Jackson in Darnell Savage in the first round. You beef up the pass rush. The defense in general is just going to be much better. And then you get Aaron Rodgers coming back healthy after playing on a torn MCL and a broken leg, the same broken bone that kept J.J. Watt out for the year. A new offensive play caller that is a question mark, but is going to be better than whatever they had in Mike McCarthy. So I do think Green Bay has a big bounce back this season, and really not any drop-off with a rookie head coach. If anything, I expect them to be very competitive here. So the NFC East, at the bottom here, the New York Giants, not going to spend a whole lot of time on them because this is not a surprise. They're going to bench Eli Manning around week 3, and we're going to see Daniel Jones. I did not like the pick. He showed some things in the preseason. I'm not going to overreact to the preseason. I don't think that he's going to come in and win a bunch of football games for a bad Giants team. I just don't. Then we got the Washington Redskins. By the way, we did throw in a tie here, if you were wondering what that was all about with Detroit. We see a tie pretty much every year, so I figured why not throw one in the predictions. The Redskins are going to be a fun team to watch. I respect this front office for holding their ground on Trent Williams and not being like Houston or other teams that we've seen in the past for just kind of giving their good players away for nothing and not letting the good organizations prey on the weak organizations. I think it's an underrated front office. But as a team, it's a scrappy team with a pretty low upside that I think is going to hover around that 4-7 win range. The Dallas Cowboys at 9-7. Now, Zeke's currently holding out. Now, running backs, I don't care who you are, it's never really going to move the needle in terms of wins and losses, especially when you've done what the Cowboys have done and addressed that position in the draft, which is very easy to find productive running backs in the mid-rounds. So whether it's Zeke, whether it's Tony Pollard, I think this is a defensive-oriented team, a top 5 defense with a ton of talent, a quarterback that pairs well with that. I'm not a huge Dak guy, but I feel like I'm actually getting to the point where I'm almost higher on Dak just because he can kind of be this team's early career Russell Wilson, that game manager type, take care of the football, run for first downs. Dak's going to do some nice things. I like the Amari Cooper value here as well. I think it's going to be a really good team competing for a wild card, as Philadelphia, to me, is the king of this division and really the conference as a whole. They have, to me, the best roster in the entire NFL. Just loaded. You got Carson Wentz coming back healthy, who, I don't care what you say, was the MVP of 2017. I think he's out to prove a lot of people wrong. Now, do note that Dallas has a particularly easy start to their schedule and Philly has a difficult start. So I don't want to hear anyone week 4 giving me your I told you so's because Dallas has a 2-game lead on Philadelphia. Let the season play out. NFC South, a surprise here at the bottom, the Carolina Panthers. Now, I understand it if you want to put this team as a 10-win team in the playoffs. I think they certainly have that potential. To me, they just lack the juice at the most important positions in the NFL right now, and in a very competitive NFC, that could end up hurting them. Their corners kind of stink. Your pass rush is really leaning on a rookie in Brian Burns, a young, more developmental rookie at that. And then also just on the offensive side of the ball, the receivers are good, not great. And then Cam Newton, to me, is, even if he's healthy, and there's some weird stuff going on with his injuries, he's a top 13, 14 quarterback, not some game-changing elite guy. So they're going to be a good team. Again, I think they have a better chance at winning this division than the team I have above them here. But I'm not going to pick this team to have a huge season. Tampa Bay, ahead of them, 6-10. I think we're going to look back on this and say that was fun. The Bruce Arians experience was a good time. I don't think it's going to result in a whole much. I think this is going to be a bottom 3 defense and a really explosive offense and a fun team to watch. The Atlanta Falcons, projecting a bounce-back season here, you are really leaning on those first-round rookies to live up to that first-round pedigree, which is easier said than done, especially on the offensive line. But the defense, just by nature, will be better. They dealt with a ton of injuries last year, and the offense should really be humming. I've thought that Matt Ryan has looked pretty sharp over the preseason. And then at the top, New Orleans, just a loaded roster. I think Drew Brees, maybe not a top 5 quarterback in my opinion, but still an elite guy and is going to just nickel and dime you to death. I think the offense is going to be a headache, but it's going to be closer to what we've seen in New England, where they play kind of ball control offense, have a really high third down conversion rate, but aren't necessarily putting up 35 points a game, and they can lean on that defense, which is the best defense in this division, in my opinion. So then NFC West, not going to get a lot of disagreement here with the Arizona Cardinals at 4-12. Now, I really planted my flag early on Kyler Murray. A lot of people thought he was going to come play baseball. I said he's not only going in the NFL draft, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick, despite Josh Rosen being there. I love Kyler Murray. I think this is going to be one of the 5 most fun teams to watch in the NFL. But at the end of the day, they got a long ways to go. Then we got Seattle at 8-8. And about an hour ago, they traded for Jadeveon Clowney, as of this recording at least. And I think a lot of overreactions, people saying, oh, Seattle's got this division now. I think Clowney, while it was a great trade, and it's a great example of a smart front office, Seattle's one of those 8 front offices that actually knows what they're doing in the NFL. It's an example of a good team eating on a bad team. But Clowney, to me, worth about a half win. Didn't even change my record prediction. You got to keep in mind this team lost Frank Clark. Clowney's not even a better pass rusher than Frank Clark. At best, it's a push. So it's a team that, while I like Seattle, and I actually was very, very high on them last year and told people don't be surprised if they're a playoff team. This year, I think maybe they overachieved a little bit. They kind of were the best version of themselves last year. And they still have a lot of young talent and are in a bit of a transition here. So I'm expecting Seattle to have actually a drop-off this year and go 8-8. And then I've got the Niners in second place. Now, this has been kind of my darling over the offseason. I'm very high on Jimmy Garoppolo. There's been some red flags in the preseason with that offense, but it's just the preseason, not going to overreact. I still believe in that offense. I believe in Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan, that offensive line, and all those playmakers. But I got a ton of worries defensively because a lot of my optimism around this team, when I said at 45-1 they were the best value pick to win the Super Bowl, that was surrounded around them getting Nick Bosa and then trading for Dee Ford, who right now, while I think it could still be a lethal combination that really helps this defense out, health is a major concern for this team, and those two guys do not look like they're going to be the consistent impacts that they've maybe hoped. So I still am high on this Niners team, and I expect Jimmy Garoppolo proves a lot of people wrong this year, but it might fall short of kind of the high expectations I was selling earlier. Unfortunately, just some bad injury luck. And then at the top, the Rams, who I'm actually a little bit lower on in general. I've got them at 13-3. Now, I've got them starting 0-2, and I just think the rest of the schedule is just really easy for them. And the regular season, I think, is going to be kind of a cakewalk for the Rams. We'll see what happens to them in the playoffs. AFC North, moving on to the AFC side of the ball. We've got the Bengals at the bottom. Not much to really say. It's just been, pretty much a train wreck offseason. For a team that did not win a lot of games last year, to then not spend a lot of money in free agency and then have your first round pick go down for the year, it's just, you can't really expect much from that team. So the Bengals, to me, are going to be in competition for the number 1 overall pick. I do genuinely feel bad for Andy Dalton because back to my deep dive, I actually was very high on this team, but that was before a lot of these injuries kind of broke down. So then number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. Just not a Lamar Jackson believer. If he proves that he can pass the ball consistently, then I will believe in him. But he just hasn't done that yet. Some games, this weird offense is going to work. We know this defense is going to be good. But, some weeks this offense will work, and some weeks you'll be sitting there, they can't run the ball, and Lamar Jackson has 6 passing yards in the fourth quarter against the Chargers. That's just who this team's going to be. I don't think it's going to work in terms of winning double-digit games and being a playoff team. I don't think it's going to be a bad team, but that's where I stand on them. Number 2 in the division, the Cleveland Browns. Now, I've got them at 10-6, and I am kind of buying into the hype. It's a loaded roster. I have really admitted that I was wrong on Baker Mayfield, and I'm excited to just watch this team go to work, and I actually believe in the culture being established here. They're still the Cleveland Browns. And then at the top of the division, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And about 2 months ago, when I did my deep dive on this team, it was a hot take to say that this team should be the best team in the division, that this team's going to win double-digit games. But now, all I can really hear is that Pittsburgh's being slept on. And I agree. I've been saying that for months. They have the best quarterback in the division, the best coach in the division, the best offensive line in the division. They have a very competitive defense. They have the continuity and the culture. The Steelers are going to be just fine. They're going to be able to do everything they want to do with that offensive line, with Big Ben, with some skill players on offense. I'm not worried about losing AB. They didn't even have Le'Veon Bell last year, so you can't count that as a loss. They just had kind of an underwhelming, uninspirational, uninteresting season last year, and people are kind of tired of them. But they're still a really dominant football team with one of the best cultures in the NFL. So onto the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins here at 4-12. Not much to really say here. I understand why they're playing Fitzpatrick to start the year. They want to develop that culture that if you are the best player, you will start. I don't necessarily think that's a mistake, but if this team's 0-3, 0-4, you got to go to Josh Rosen and see what you got there, because I think you made a good move to get him for basically nothing. So you got to find out if he can be the future here, because I do think he's got a chance, but not the best chance here in Miami that has one of the worst surrounding cores in the league. The Jets at 7-9, I like this team. I'm excited to watch them. I just think they might be a piece or two away and still need to kind of figure out who they want to be. I think Darnold has a really good year, and if he really exceeds expectations here in year 2 and this is a 10-win team, wouldn't really surprise me. The Buffalo Bills at 9-7. They're just a team, even though they might not have all the talent that the Jets have, it's close. I just think the culture and the coaching there is a little more established. They also have a home field advantage that you really can't sleep on. They can beat anyone at home, and I expect that they will win most of their home games, which is a big advantage for this team. And that defense, to me, with Coach McDermott, has the potential to be a top 5 defense, especially with that home field advantage and getting a player like Ed Oliver, who I'm very high on. So then New England at the top, they're just going to do their thing. They're going to start slow because they don't care about the first month of the season. They know this division's not going to be truly competing in December. They'll be a very heavy running team this year. It's going to be a very good defense. They're going to be New England. There's really not much to really say about the Patriots. They're going to be a 11, 12 win team and be a legitimate Super Bowl contender come January. I don't see a lot changing. On to the AFC South. I've got the Colts at the bottom at 6-10. I just think the Andrew Luck retirement set this team back a few years. They're going to compete. I think Brissett is going to do some interesting things there, but they just don't have the overall talent after losing Andrew Luck, to me, to win like double-digit games. I think they'll be fine in the future, though. Good front office, good coach. Third place, the Tennessee Titans, just lacking that oomph to me. I've been kind of out on them. I'm out on Mariota. I think this is his last year here. Just don't have the star talent. Don't have a lot of excitement. They've got a really talented, deep roster, but I just don't know why anything's going to change this year. I think they'll hover right around 500. The Jacksonville Jaguars are actually going to come in here second. I still think the Foles signing was miserable, selling him off to your fans as some franchise savior, but you're going to have a dominant defense, and I think they capitalize a little bit on the Luck retirement and just kind of hover around 8-8 and win some low-scoring games. And then I do have the Texans winning the division at 8-8. So I think this division is kind of a joke. I think the Texans front office is competing with the Giants for the biggest train wreck of a front office in the NFL right now. They basically got backed into a corner on this Clowney trade. Just hire a general manager. They have this super top-heavy roster that they just cannot fill out the margins, and they're really struggling. But I do have them winning the South. AFC West, the Oakland Raiders. I don't buy the hype on this team at all. I've actually laughed at the hype on this team on my podcast consistently. The defense is going to be the worst in the NFL. I don't think it's even going to be close, at all. They don't have a secondary. They don't have any linebackers, and their pass rush kind of stinks. And then offensively, I do think Derek Carr has a chance to lead the league in passing yards because they're going to be coming down from 20 in every second quarter. You got Antonio Brown there, and Gruden I don't think is a particularly bad offensive coach, but I just think the hype here is ridiculous, and this team is going to suck. Denver Broncos at 9-7. A little bit of a sleeper team this year. I think Vic Fangio is going to do some nice things for that defense. On the offensive side of the ball, they should have a little more continuity. Should be a nice team. Going to compete for a wild card, I think. Chargers, I feel bad for this team. They can't get through an offseason without a significant injury. It was Hunter Henry last year. Now it's Derwin James. Those are true superstar players. They're going to be good. Offensive line is going to cost them some games. I've been high on this Chargers team for multiple years, and this is probably the first year where I'm maybe a little lower on this team. They don't have a home field advantage, and they don't have an offensive line. It's they're fighting against the wind, basically. But they do have an incredible roster. And then I have the Chiefs at 14-2. Now, I soured on this team early when it was looking like they might not have Tyreek Hill. Well, that's all sorted, and now they do have Tyreek Hill and a guy that they had drafted to potentially replace Tyreek Hill. This team, they were a hype team last year, but it's a rare example of me not going the other direction on the hype. I think the Chiefs' offense is going to be just as good, if not better, this year. And then the defense, I can't applaud enough their switch to a 4-3 scheme. I've been crying for this for teams like Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Indianapolis before they did it recently. When you have a great quarterback and explosive offense, you don't need to win the game on defense with these crazy 3-4 schemes. Switch to a 4-3 where it's easier to build the personnel. You're calling more simple plays, and the players know what they're doing and can just play faster and keep everything in front of them. I think it's going to be a game-changing move for this defense that's not going to be a good defense. It's going to be one of the 8 worst defenses in the NFL, but if you can go from 31 or whatever you would consider them last year to 24 or 25, keep that score down 6 or 7 points a game, and let that offense go to work, I think the Chiefs are going to be remarkable. All right, so those are the standings. I'm just going to rip through my award picks because this is getting a little longer. Carson Wentz for MVP. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going Khalil Mack of the Bears. Offensive Rookie of the Year, going Kyler Murray as a no-brainer pick, but a long shot here is going to be Darrell Henderson of the Rams. If Todd Gurley can't really go during the regular season, he could really have an explosive year. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Give me Ed Oliver for the Bills. Darnell Savage being a long shot there, a guy that I could see having a lot of interceptions as a rookie there in Green Bay. And then Comeback Player of the Year, I will go with Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, so let's get through the playoffs here. We're going to start on the NFC side of the ball. So the matchups here, the Bears at the Saints. The Bears getting the 6th seed there in the wild card, and the Falcons getting the wild card at the 5 spot. So I'm going to take the Saints at home. Going to be a competitive game, but I just think Saints are a good enough team to take care of that one. And then Falcons at Green Bay. Matt Ryan on the road in a cold playoff game. Yeah, I'm a hard pass on that one. So we're going to go to the AFC side of the ball now. Browns at Patriots. Just the experience will be everything for the Patriots in that game, who surprisingly didn't get a bye in this game, but not a bad draw to get an inexperienced Browns team there. And then the Chargers at the Texans. The Chargers, to me, at that point, should have Derwin James back. That's the nice thing is, they should get him back for the playoffs. And the Texans just don't have the offensive line to contain that pass rush. So I like the Chargers to win that game. So let's move on to the divisional round. We've got the the Packers at the Rams, rather. I'm going to go with the Packers in this one. Aaron Rodgers against Jared Goff. I'm a fan of that. I think that, the Rams maybe coasted through the regular season a little bit on a pretty easy schedule. But the Packers are actually the better football team in that matchup. Then we've got the Saints at the Eagles. Drew Brees on the road in the cold. Not going to quite have that arm strength to execute everything he maybe could in the dome. The Eagles coming fresh off a bye, getting really hot later in the year. Just the most talented roster in the NFL. I'm going to take the Eagles. So then on the AFC, we've got the Chargers at the Chiefs in an AFC West battle. This would be an epic round for the AFC, but I am going to take the Chiefs at home. That would be a hell of a game. I think it'd be close, but I'll take the Chiefs. Then Patriots at Steelers. Gonna take the Patriots in this one. We've seen this battle time and time again. I think the Patriots are a team that's going to have a slow start, but as we've seen year and year again, they're just a different team in December and January, and I think just the better team in this one. So NFC Championship, Packers at Eagles. I will take the Eagles, just better overall roster talent. They have the quarterback to kind of go punch for punch with Rodgers a little bit. And then in the AFC, I'm going to take the Chiefs getting past the Patriots here. I think they're going to just play more sound defense, force Tom Brady to really open up that passing game. I don't think New England's going to be able to run the ball all day and play clock control when they got Patrick Mahomes lighting up the scoreboard on the other side of the ball, especially in Arrowhead here. Give me the Chiefs. So it's Andy Reid versus his disciple, Doug Peterson, in the Super Bowl. This is the matchup I really want to see, but it's also the matchup I believe we're going to get, at least most likely. Unfortunately for the Eagles, they don't really have the secondary to match up with this Chiefs offense. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Chiefs. It would be a hell of a battle, but I do think that this is the Chiefs' year. We've seen these teams with rookie quarterbacks on that, or quarterbacks on that rookie deal, really thrive building a remarkable roster around that player before you have to pay him. And I think this is going to be the Chiefs' year. So that's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed. Excited to talk to you guys in the comments. So pumped for this football season. We got power rankings tomorrow. Cheers as always, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace.